I like doing that. Good afternoon. Welcome to this, the first of 4 debates presented by the City Club of Cleveland in this very important 2009 election cycle. I'm Jim Foster, Director of the City Club. The City Club has a long and proud history of hosting debates for public office. Whether the race is perceived by the pollsters to be close or whether the pundits consider it a high profile or not, the City Club of Cleveland provides an opportunity for those interested in their government to learn more about the issues and the candidates. Here at the City Club, we go face-to-face, in person and in depth. And yes, you, the audience, and voters will get to ask questions. Today's debate is for the office of Council for Ward 14, located on Cleveland's near west side. The new Ward 14 is a largely Hispanic ward created by the reduction of Cleveland City Council from 21 to 19 members, and includes portions of wards that are currently represented by Mr. Cummins and Joe Santiago. 60 minutes will go by very quickly, so let's proceed. The rules for the opening portion of this debate are: each candidate has a total of 6 minutes for both an opening statement and a rebuttal. It is their choice as to how they will divide the time. Again, we will hear from each candidate twice in this segment, opening statements from each and then rebuttals by each, with a total time of 6 minutes. After opening and rebuttal, we will move to questions from the audience, and then we'll have a closing question from the moderator for the candidates. We have invited each of the candidates whose name will appear on the ballot, and we are delighted that we have these 5 gentlemen who are with us today. Our candidates are Mr. Nelson Cintron, 43, a former 2-term city councilman; Mr. Brian Cummins, the current Ward 15 councilman; Mr. James DeMacco, a former Cleveland municipal deputy bailiff; Mr. Rick Nagin, a writer and former city council aide; and Mr. Moises Torres, a former city contract compliance officer. The order of presentation was determined by a drawing a few minutes ago, and Mr. Nagin will present first, followed by Mr. Torres, Mr. DeMacco, Mr. Cintron, and Mr. Cummins. Let's begin, and Mr. Nagin, would you go first?
Thank you, Mr. Foster, and I want to thank the City Club for this opportunity for the candidates in Ward 14 to present our views. I'm very excited about running for City Council in Ward 14. It's a community where I have lived and worked and raised my family for over 25 years. I'm one of only 3 candidates in this race who live in the ward, and I know the ward very well. I ran for City Council in both parts of the ward. I've knocked on almost every door, walked every street and alley, and have been active, and I know the organizations in the community, the businesses, the churches, and the people. This ward is the most diverse ward in the city, and it's almost 50% Hispanic, almost 20% African American, and I have had strong ties with both of those communities. In fact, I just learned today that I have received the endorsement of the Call-and-Post, Cleveland's African American newspaper. I've been especially active in the Hispanic community, been a member of the San Lorenzo Club, coach for the Roberto Clemente Little League. I've worked in the Hispanic community on voter registration, immigrant rights campaigns, and also worked in the election campaigns of Ed Davila, Nelson Cintron Jr., and Jasmine Torres Lugo. Quiero saludar a la comunidad hispana y pueden ser seguro que si soy elegido, tendré su amistad y sus intereses en mi corazón. Even though I'm not Hispanic, I will hold the interests of the Hispanic community close to my heart. And in fact, the Hispanic community is a great resource for Ward 14 and could make it a destination for people that want to hear great Latin music, dance salsa and merengue, eat comida criolla, practice your Spanish, and enjoy the rich art and culture and history of the Hispanic community. And there's tremendous pride in the Hispanic community right now because of the appointment of Judge Sonia Sotomayor to the Supreme Court, and I think that this is a moment to promote Hispanic scholarships, and also it is a moment to correct what has really been an insult to the Hispanic community, and that is that this is the only community whose festival and parade every year are relegated to a parking lot downtown. And if I'm elected, I'm going to work very hard to overcome every obstacle to bring that event back into the community. And incidentally, the event that was held this year, I was the only non-Hispanic in this race that participated in it, and also participated in the annual coffee festival at the Club Alma Yacana. Recently, 7 leading, highly respected leaders of the Hispanic community issued a letter endorsing me. I would not have run if I didn't have wide, broad support within the Hispanic community. You cannot represent, and you should not represent Ward 14 unless you do. We need in Ward 14 to rebuild and to build a strong community development corporation that will build a strong network of block clubs which are necessary to abate crime and housing blight and vacant houses, and to promote commercial development along Clark and West 25th and Fulton, and to partner with the agencies that we have and the institutions that we have in the community, from the Spanish American Committee to Metro Health to the Cleveland Zoo, to build programs of health, education, and culture for our youth. I am very proud to have the endorsement of the union representing the workers at Metro Health, and I've been working very closely with them on protecting jobs and services. I also have the endorsement of the AFL-CIO, where I'm a delegate from the communication workers. And last year I worked as the labor coordinator for the campaign of Congressman Kucinich, and I have extensive ties with public officials at all levels of government. That's something that I can bring to this community. I also am a graduate of Harvard and have a doctorate in biology from the Rockefeller University, and I know the outlook and aspirations and ideals of professionals. Ward 14 is my home. It is a community that I love and that I'm very deeply committed to, and that I am anxious to represent the people here to make life better for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nagin. Thank you. Now we will have opening remarks, excuse me, for Mr. Torres.
Thank you very much. I don't have a memorized speech, and there's a lot of things that I can say. So I'm going to start by asking you to forgive me for my written speech that I wrote last night. First, I'd like to say good afternoon to each of you. I'd like to thank the leadership of the City Club for having this debate. I would also like to acknowledge that you are the nation's longest-standing open forum, and I'd like to commend you for that. Thank you very much for your diligence. Today, I am here as an American, a Cleveland-born Puerto Rican, which is very proud of my heritage. Ward 14 is a diverse ward made up of many ethnic groups, mostly Hispanics. Ward 14 is full of immigrants that arrived many years ago, some more recent. Hard-working Americans chasing the American dream and hoping for a better tomorrow.